Hi, good afternoon. It's me, Pat Miller, the Gabb, here today with a guy who's been around even longer than me, even though you're much younger. I bet you, well, maybe not long, sort of the same. It's John Imbergamo, PR guy around town, probably the most noted PR guy around this area. Welcome.
Well, thanks. Nice to be here.
Well, it's actually sort of a pretty day. It ended out.
Yeah,
Early January, don't know what to do. And Happy New Year.
and
And
you, and you.
thank you. And no politics, of course, but the restaurant scene, I feel personally so bad for everybody because I'm asking your opinion. I have no idea. I don't think these places know what to do next. I mean, do you take a vacation and then they tell you you're open? Then do you open for 25% and then do they close you? What's your ideas about all this? Yeah, well, that's a good answer.
Big question. I was talking to a journalist the other day and I said, I might have a long Italian last name, but it's not Nostradamus. I have no clue, honestly, what the future holds, because when we make projections or forecasts or budgets and those kinds of things, we base them on history. And right now we have no history of this, and I guess I hope we never have history of it again after this. But we can only just look at the circumstances, the context for where we are, and maybe come to some I'll call them possibilities
Okay.
future, and then see what happens. I mean, the most amazing thing about restaurateurs is their ability to adapt.
And their willingness to.
Yeah, I mean, there's street closes in front. They open a drive-through in the alley. I mean, that's the kind of the way restaurant people are, and we've learned this year.
Well, just explain that you are with the girls and your drive through the alley so people know.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't open a drive-through through the alley. I'm just saying, generally, restaurateurs are just easily make moves to try to figure out how to survive. They're gutsy and they're nimble, and they're willing to make changes, and they're usually small enough to make those changes. So they're not, some giant company that needs to move 300 units one way or the other, but usually singular. And I do represent Jen Jasinski and Beth Gruich's restaurants, Rioja, Bistro Vendome, Stoic and Genuine, and Ultrea. I always have to skip over Euclid Hall because I'm so used to saying Euclid Hall, but it was one of the victims of this COVID thing. So I have hope. I have great hope, actually, that a bunch of people will survive this. And there's a couple of interesting things that you can talk about. I can talk about, but one is downtown, and I think that if I was a betting man, I'd probably put more money on suburban and just near urban restaurants than I would on downtown. The Downtown Denver Partnership is telling me that somewhere between 18 and 22% of offices in downtown have any people in them at all.
And I understand a lot of them will, I don't mean to interrupt, stay at home to work because it's working out, it's easier, and they don't have to worry about it right now.
Yeah, I guess it depends on your definition of a lot. So we don't know how many and whether people are going to abandon office buildings, to send everybody to do remote work from home. I think we're going to find out that the productivity will suffer from work from home. That's my sense of things, but I'm not a productivity expert. I'm a restaurant guy. So the fact is that there's 120,000 people a day that come to downtown to work, and those people are not coming. I feel like that's the smallest part of our future problems, to be honest. The tiniest part, and that's because, at least in my case, my restaurants didn't do huge lunch business anyway,
Right.
and that's lunch business, and lunch business is not that profitable because you don't sell a lot of liquor and that kind of thing. So I'm not as worried about that part. I'm really worried about tourism and sporting events and the theater and opera and symphony and conventions and
Those
tourism.
are big worries.
And that's who fuels a big chunk. Those groups fuel a big chunk of the business in downtown and in the near suburbs as well. But we have a much smaller base of people who live downtown who might eat in our restaurants than,
Right.
say, a Barolo, which is surrounded by rooftops. So we'll see what happens. On the positive side, there will be fewer restaurants, so there will be fewer seats, and we will be less competitive for customers. We will not be competing as strongly for staff, which was a huge problem in January or February before all this started.
Oh, okay.
And we'll see. I actually that part's very positive to me, is we've kind of thinned out the herd just a bit. And
I know a lot of people have had to, let go, not get rid of a lot of their employees. And I know some places are using their employees to deliver, to give them a job. But for a while, when everything closed down, then all you could have was pickup or delivery.
Yeah. People ask me, so how do you feel about when we close back down in November? So we closed it on March 16th, 15th, whatever that was. We reopened on May 27th. We at 25%. We closed back down in November, and people, every journalist in the city is kind of chasing this story about how our restaurant's going to survive, and so much of what the November shutdown is about is that we didn't have any optimism. We in March when we closed down, nobody knew how bad it was going to be, right?
Well, I think everybody thought in May it'll be fine again.
I think, or sooner, maybe even sooner than that. We also had the hope of the PPP money coming in April. We had the hope of the $600 a week for our staff, the additional unemployment benefits coming. And then when we closed down and then we opened on May 27th, and, business through the summer was, even at small capacity, lower capacity, it could have been worse. It wasn't great, but it could have been worse.
And you did have outside dining. And
we had outside dining that wasn't frozen outside dining, frigid tundras out there. And so then we closed down in November. We didn't have the cash that we had in March, because some of us had some reserves in March, and those got spent between March and November. We didn't have really any hope of a stimulus bill, because nobody was talking about a stimulus bill in November, or they were talking about it, but nobody was doing anything about it. And now we have that with a much smaller amount of benefits. And most importantly, we have knowledge. We know how bad this is, and that makes it, from a psyche point of view, so much more difficult than the March shutdown. So,
right. Well, and your restaurants, for the most part, they're all wonderful. Start there, but they're more upscale than the drive-through, get a burger kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's got to be a lot more work to put together a carry-out package that's going to appeal to the average person and be delicious when you get it home. I mean, that I feel so sorry for you all.
Yeah,
That's tough.
it's difficult. Paul Riley from Beast and Bottle and Caperta said, we're just throwing everything up against the wall and seeing what sticks. And that he said that to me maybe 2 months ago.
Well, he went into quote, quote, hibernation.
Yes, his 2 restaurants are closed for a few months.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that a little bit, about the decision to do that. But he's so right that we're just throwing stuff up against the wall. I mean, I was talking to him and explaining that at Rioja we did a series of wine dinners, Spanish wine dinners, where you could either eat in the restaurant when we had inside restaurants, or you could eat in the tent outside with heaters, or you could pick up all the ingredients, take it home, and watch a video of Jen making the food and showing you step by step how to make the food. Those things sold like crazy. They sold very well. We sold out the interior dining. We sold out for 3 out of the 4.
Which I've heard. I don't quite understand it, but I hear that people who want to go out don't care.
Yeah, well, I think that's somewhat true. But my point is, that day I'm talking to Paul, he had put together a almost exactly the same thing with these beautiful Pinot Noirs from Oregon, and he said, it just didn't sell. Nobody bought it. His was cheaper than our dinner. His, he's got great restaurants, I think, and I just don't understand. But that's exactly what's happening right now. Is that you can't again, no history, no context. No way to make projections. So you just keep doing stuff, and you hope that it will work. And when it does, you're thrilled. When it doesn't, you
try again.
You sob a little bit into your shirt, and then you go back and do something else.
I know, it's very sad. I mean,
I really very wet shirts.
Yeah. I mean, I just, my sympathy. I know how I feel stuck here, so I can just imagine how they feel trying to do what they're doing. Okay, what were you doing?
Well, it's important. You said something interesting that I've thought a lot about, and there might be a whole lot of people who disagree with this. In fact, I know there are, but
anything I say, you could disagree.
No, I don't think we should be supporting restaurants because we feel sorry for them. I think that we're taking your money just like we used to take your money. You're buying food in a box in some cases, or sitting out on a patio when it's 40 degrees out with only 2 walls up. Please, everybody understand that the reason there's only 2 walls up is because that's the law. And the tent police are coming out and citing us for having more than 2 walls out. Jen and Beth spent thousands of dollars on tents, and more thousands of dollars on heaters. The propane heaters we bought are like $3,000 a piece, something like that. And so I get a little sensitive reading Yelp reviews about, it's cold. They made me sit outside and it was cold. Well, that was all we had. It's the only thing we were allowed to do. So, but I think that as a restaurateur, I think you should eat in my restaurants or take out from my restaurants because we do a good job, and because you like the food. And,
no, I agree.
And maybe you give us a little bit of slack in terms of having to take something home in a box. But don't. I got in a huge argument with a downtown organization about running another promotion that's just, hey, restaurants are really hurting, so we need to support them. Well, bull. Can we cuss on this? I don't know if we can cuss.
Yes,
but,
you can say whatever you want on this show.
But it's just bullshit. It's the fact is, you should still be making decisions. You should still have expectations.
I agree
that you're going to get the food that you want, and again, maybe with a slight allowance for the fact that it's cold out.
Well, I welcome the ones who have even changed a menu more. I mean, I'm not going to say, oh, you don't have blah, blah, blah anymore, because if you have something that will travel well. It may not be the same saucy whatever it was, but if it's going to be good, I'd rather have that. And
Yeah,
I think a lot of people feel that way.
that's kind of always been the case for to-go food, is that people, I represented Racine's for 20 years, and people would order fish and chips delivered by DoorDash, and then complain that it was not crispy when they got it home. Well, like, you know, um,
Now, I agree.
I don't know any way that could have happened,
I laugh when
put food in a
everybody
box,
wants,
it gets
well,
steamed, and
they want French fries. And I said, you
Yeah.
realize the French fries that come with this are not going to be the same when you get them home.
yeah.
I mean, it just doesn't happen.
We all have trimmed menus and
But you should.
tried to hone them down to, especially for to go and delivery, to things that make more sense. But if you have a signature item, you have a signature item, and it's kind of hard to take artichoke tortellini off the menu at Rioja, or tartare off the menu at Bistro Vendome, or one of the tapas.
No, I understand.
So we work on it, but it's not easy. The fact is that nothing is easy, and the 4 restaurants that I've talked about a couple of times, Rioja, Bistro, and Stoic, and Ultra, are all closed for 10 days because everybody in December
thought you were going to be closed.
Well, and we also kind of burnt ourselves out. We had mostly management people, so managers and chefs and sous chefs doing all the work.
Right.
And during Christmas week, we sold 256 dinners to go at Rioja. So, where you need a whole bunch of people to help you prep that and package it. Think about the complexity of that food in plastic and
Right.
and compostable containers and stuff like that. And the challenge and the logistics of putting that together are brutal. But we did okay in this Christmas week. We did okay in the week between Christmas and New Year's, and then on the Sunday after New Year's, everything went in the crapper, and we closed on Monday for 10 days. But we'll be back on the 14th.
Right, and I'm thrilled, and I think it's great that you're taking the time off. But even on the other hand, you didn't know that on 24 hours before that, they would decide that you could have 25% inside again.
We did not know that. So.
No.
And we have, it's been the case in every move by the governor and the mayor that, and I get that, you can't give a week's notice of a shutdown when you waited.
They don't know what's going to happen.
Well, yeah, you waited as long as you could to announce the shutdown. The problem is, and I've explained this both to the governor and the mayor, is within the restaurant, especially the first time in March, there's all this food and liquor and prep and all that done. I mean, we found out on March 15th at 4 o'clock that we were shutting down at 9 a.m. on the 16th. So, that creates a challenge to try to utilize that food. So you end up preserving things and freezing things and making things out of the ingredients that you have that you wouldn't normally have on the menu, and freezing those, and then giving away, massive amounts of stuff to your staff. And luckily we at Rioja, especially, we had the opportunity to crank up this Colorado restaurant response thing where you were
helping
producing. Yeah, we were producing 500
Oh
meals.
no, you all have done an awesome job, as you always do. Quick thoughts. Opening right now, the list is like this long. Why? And closing, I understand, but
yeah. The openings in many cases are easily explained, and that is, they've signed a lease, they've paid an architect, they've contracted with a construction company, they have gone past the tipping point, and they have to open. And the fact is that optimists are abundant in the restaurant business, and so they probably think that just because they're new or
Right.
because they're really, really good or because they're unique, that they're going to do better than the rest of us. And in some cases, they probably will. But
God bless them. Good for them.
But it's hard. It would be hard to sit in your finished restaurant and not open the doors and think that you could do better than by having the doors open than not having the doors open. Although people like Jen and Beth and Paul Riley and Aileen have made that call, they have figured out that it's, especially during the first couple of weeks of January, which are always just really crap weeks in terms of business. The steakhouse guys would do some business in January because of the stock show, but not regular restaurants. And so January is always a crap month anyway. So we've all decided we save money by closing.
You said you wanted to talk about your hibernation thoughts?
Yeah, I think that it's relatively simple, right? You can put a profit and loss statement together that on one column shows you being open, doing minimal amounts of business, and how much it costs to stay open. And the numbers there that are critical are labor, because labor costs a lot of money, and we just increased the cost of that labor by increasing the minimum wage in the state of Colorado. Not importantly, we don't care about the minimum wage for cooks and dishwashers. That's really unimportant. Unfortunately, the minimum wage for tip servers went up nearly $2 an hour. And so they get the double dip of getting an extra $2 an hour, and we have to raise prices to pay for that extra $2 an hour, and they get tipped on top of that. People should get used to me doing stuff like that, because
it's okay. You're Italian. I'm Jewish. It's all the same.
It's not a difficult calculation to make. You have to try to project how much business you think you can do. But if you go back to November and look at what we did in November, we weren't doing much business with no inside capacity and just takeout and tents, and it's colder in January. So
yeah, I noticed that.
I don't think it's all that hard to make that call.
And it gets dark earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cold and it's dark.
Yeah, I talked to Jan and Beth a little bit after the announcement was made that we had 25%. By that time, they were fully committed to being closed for 10 days, and people were taking vacations and stuff like that.
Well, that's part of the problem.
Yeah. So they wouldn't have changed it anyway. They didn't think.
Good for them.
Continued to.
Well, they helped us.
And they did.
Break.
Yeah.
I mean, so did they, but the people, the cooks and all of them really do as well.
Yeah.
It's just a really, really tough call for everyone. But you do have an alley, and I'm saying this because I've had several people say to me, well, if I ordered from Larimer Square, you guys, how do you pick it up? And I said, I think they have the alley in the back.
Yeah, we did a dinner back in October, November, I can't remember exactly when, for the National Sports Center for the Disabled. So it was a fully virtual dinner for 172 people, something like that, in one day, where we prepared the ingredients, mostly done, prepped or done, for I think it was a 3-course meal. And we used the alley for all of their volunteers to come pick it up, 10 orders at a time, 12 orders at a time, in bags all marked with people's names and stuff like that. And then they went out through the city to deliver that to everybody. And then at 6 o'clock at night, we did a Facebook Live or something like that, where Jen showed them how to prepare it. And we had somebody from the National Sports Center talking, and that was incredibly successful.
Good.
And again, being, you really have to have your shit together to do that.
Oh, yeah.
You can't just, that can't just pop up one day and go, well, how are we going to do that? I mean, they know how to do
you're a great advisor, and they are very talented ladies.
Yeah. I say often, when I used to walk into an event,
Yeah.
I don't worry too much about how they're going to execute the event. I know they're going to do a great job, and I almost don't have to worry too much after all these years. We've been working together for, I don't know how many years, 20 years, but
It's a long time.
yeah, since Penzano days. So I don't have to, I know what I don't have to worry about. How's that?
Right.
I know what I do have to worry about. And I don't mean worry, but I know what I do have to pay attention to. So
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
they know what they're doing.
One last question topic is, I saw on one of Danny Meyer's Google things, New York City is doing Restaurant Week carryout. I thought, you've got to be kidding.
Yeah, I think part of that is back to that do-gooder idea that we should be patronizing restaurants because we feel sorry for them. I'm not ascribing that motive to New York Restaurant Week, but
I think New York is dead. So I mean, it's terrible.
Well, they do some pretty damn stupid things in New York, and I mean
I'm not arguing.
When they announced no more interior dining in New York, that outdoor dining was still allowed. They said that you weren't allowed to go into the restaurant to pee. You weren't allowed to go
pee in the alley.
You weren't allowed to go in the restaurant to. Now they rescinded relatively quickly when
maybe
everybody said, "What?"
There isn't a pea tree out there.
but my guess is they're again throwing anything up against the wall to see what sticks.
Well, I hope we're not doing that here. I haven't seen that.
We haven't done it to, we've done some things that were just, go eat because the restaurants are hurting kind of things. And certainly I'm not saying that we don't appreciate that sentiment. I just don't necessarily agree with it. I think a promotion, if you're going to do a promotion, should have some heart, some soul to it, some kind of an offer.
Okay, 30 minutes later, tell each restaurant specialty so they get a plug.
Sure. Rioja is the flagship James Beard Award-winning restaurant, chef, whatever you want to say, Mediterranean food. Mostly it's just Jen's food, and that's really hard to explain, but wonderful fresh stuffed pastas made in-house, and
very talented young
great, yeah, just great food and service. Bistro Vendôme, just a kicky little French bistro, very much where you might hear Edith Piaf over the sound system and eat tartare and mussels and enjoy.
I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, the chicken that you like and the trout that you like at Bistro Vendôme.
And the patio that I like.
The patio's got a big tent over it now with 2 walls up and a giant propane.
Unfortunately, I'm stuck here.
Yeah, me too.
Sorry.
Stoic and Genuine, fresh seafood, and our slogan there is no oceans, no worries. We realize we're in the middle of the country, but we don't care, and we get fresh fish in every day. Wonderful, there's a whole halibut thing that's just great. Great oysters, a big selection of oysters and that kind of stuff. And then little Altrea, also at Union Station, doing Spanish and Portuguese food, tapas, and in the summer we do paella on the patio every Saturday during the farmers market there at Union Station, where we make a 48-inch pan of paella a couple of times in the morning and serve it right there on the patio. Big gin selection there, and Portuguese and Spanish wines.
Well, they're all fabulous, and I hope someday, very soon, we all get to go visit them in person.
Me too.
They do a great job, and they do. And thank you for your time.
You bet. Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Love having you. We'll do it again.
Okie doke.
All right. Much love. Thank you. Everybody else, just keep listening. We always have something exciting, and John Imbergamo always makes it exciting. Have a great day.
See ya.